I'm Canigiani with the Canigiani Christmas Light Show. A couple of months ago, we put on a couple of videos, some how-to videos, and looking at some DMX controllers, how to install the Bethlehem star on the top of the roof, things like that. We've had a lot of comments from some of our guests and some of our YouTube fans, some of our Facebook fans, for how to do some things, some behind-the-scenes type of work. So what I'd like to do for you today is kind of answer some of those questions. And one of my favorite questions that we get from fans that come to the show is, when do you get started doing all this stuff, all this setup? As you can tell today here, I have on my welding gloves, I have on my welding jacket and my tassel cap here, and we're going to be doing some welding. What we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to turn this, which is some standard 1/4 inch cold rolled round steel, into this. And this is one of our 5 trumpet players that we're going to build. He is a wireframe trumpet player, and basically what we're going to do is we're going to don him with some lights. We can color lights around the head and the torso area here. The trumpet will be a gold color, that kind of thing. We use some clips sort of like this right here, and basically all these clips do is a clip will clip to the wireframe and the lights will clip to the clip as well. And we can run our features that way. So we'll be building 5 of these, and I'm going to show you how to do it today, so stick around. The very first thing that we're going to need to do here is we're going to take a sheet of paper and we're just going to draw out the sketch of the trumpet player that we want to build. And this could be anything you want, but we're going to do a trumpet player. So let's go ahead and we'll just kind of sketch out here roughly what this guy might look like. And then what we're going to do is we're going to make an engineering drawing out of this smaller drawing. And once you get that blown up, then you can use that as the basis for laying out your pieces. So let's just go ahead and we'll sketch this guy up here. Alright, and there we have it. We have our picture of the trumpet player drawn, and the next step is going to be to take this to Staples or some other sort of office supply store, warehouse, whatever, and get this blown up to the right proportion that you want. And basically we're going to use that engineering drawing as the basis for our for welding. So what we'll do is once we get this enlarged, we can actually bend the pieces of steel to fit each curve, each contour of the piece that you're doing. Now that we have our picture drawn, and now that we have our engineering sketches here that are all printed out to size, we're ready to go ahead and start making this into a wireframe. And what I truly love about these is that they are really one of a kind. You'll never find anything like this in the world. Why? Because it's a picture that came from our heads, and it's bent specifically custom exactly the way we envisioned it. So it's kind of neat. It's kind of a no-brainer as well, but nobody in the world has ever come up with anything like this. And it's the same thing. You can do the same exact thing. So any shape that you wanted to bend, weld together, put lights on, it's your special creation, if you will. So there's nothing like it anywhere in the world. And again, this is what we're going to be making. So these can be placed this way, I can place that way. Incidentally, this guy's going to be placed this way because of the C here. So we're going to be putting letters on each of the flags on the trumpet guys, trumpet players here. So this will be pretty neat. So let's go ahead and take a look at how we're going to get started. We're first going to work from the engineering drawing here. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to take the quarter rounds and we're going to measure each piece on here. So we're going to work our way all around the frame here, all around the trumpet player, and we're going to cut a piece of steel for each length that's on here. The easiest thing to do is to start with the straight pieces. So what we're going to do is we'll take a piece around here, and actually, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the camera over here so we can take a better look. We're ready to go. So what we're going to do is we'll take a piece of wire here, a piece around, and we'll place it right here like this. So we're going to trace this line right here, and we just want to cut a piece of steel that's going to fit that line on the drawing. So we're going to go ahead and make a grease pencil marking on here. So now we know where we need to make our cut. So what we'll do is we'll take our bolt cutters here, and I'm just going to take a standard pair of bolt cutters, right? Nothing fancy. And I'm going to put this on the ground here, and we're going to give it a cut. And now we have our piece of stock that fits perfectly on the cross section of the trumpet player's chest. Alright? So what we're going to do is we're just going to fill every line on the trumpet player here. So it gets a little bit complex because we have a lot of curvature here as well. So the arms will do some curving here. The trumpet up here, the flag will do some curving. But the easiest piece right now to do is just to cut everything out. As far as the straight pieces, we're going to cut all those first. And once we get all the straight pieces cut out, then we can start to go through and do some of the curved pieces, or some of the hands, the trumpet, the head, that kind of thing. So now we're finished cutting all the straight pieces for the trumpet player, so let's go take a look at it. Let's wheel the camera around here for you. And this is what it looks like. So each of the straight pieces was cut to size. Well, they're not exactly in the right place there, that's okay. We get the general idea. All the straight pieces were cut. Now I didn't cut the straight pieces from the trumpet player's mouth to the hand, because what's going to happen is the hands are actually a lot bigger than I anticipated. So that's the smallest ring that I'm able to roll on one of the tools over on the bench there. So I didn't want to cut the straight pieces out quite yet, because you see there's a little gap here, so they're going to be shorter than what we would think originally. So this is these are all the straight pieces. So now we're ready to start bending wire, which is a little bit time consuming. Takes a little bit of finesse, and skill is not the right word. I just want to say probably patience is probably the best thing, because it's not as easy as one would expect, but it just takes a little bit of patience is all. So let's take a look at some of the tools that we're going to use to bend wire with. The first is my favorite. It's the old hammer and anvil. Okay, so basically if you need to make a piece something like this, this is going to be the brim of the trumpet player's hat. We're just going to put it on the anvil here, and we're going to bend it around. So we're just going to chip away, or not chip away, but kind of bend away at it until we get the right bend in the wire. So we take it over to our drawing, and all we're going to do is place it on our drawing. And when it matches the line on the drawing, that means we got the right piece in place. So if this was sticking out a little bit like that, or like that, we need to take it back to the anvil and bend it down a little bit more. Okay, so that's one piece. And that's one type of bending that I use. I'm sure there are tons more, but the three that I'm using here is what we'll show in the video today. Another type of bend here is going to be on a longer piece, like the arm. What we typically would do to bend the piece for the arm would be to take a piece of stock here like this, and we start to line it up on the line, and you can see right here where the line starts to stray from the bar stock, from the round. What I'll do is I'll put a tick mark on there, and we're going to take it over to another bender that we built, and this one's actually kind of slick. All it is two pieces of pipe. All those two pieces of pipe do is they stay as stationary as you can get them, is what we're looking for here. So good and solid, and all we're going to do is we're going to put the rod, we're going to put the round in between the two pipes here, up to the tick mark that you put on with a grease pencil, and all you're going to do is just give it a bend this way. Or, if you wanted to make a bend to the other side, all you're going to do is just make a bend this way. And basically what you do is you just bend that piece, again, the same way you did with the hammer and anvil, is to just bend it over until it fits the arm here. So what I can do is I can show you exactly how to do that. We'll show you the ring roller first. This tool is called a planetary ring roller. It can be found on Harbor Freight for about $80. Sometimes there's a guy that lives around us who got this on sale for $40. So hats off to him. That's an excellent deal. And this is a wonderful tool for rolling round rings. So all this thing consists of is a crank here. And what it does is it turns these little rollers here. And what it does is it takes a piece of metal in through here and out the side over here. This guy adjusts the height of this roller, and as you roll a piece of stock through it, all it's going to do is incrementally bend that around. So let me go ahead and get a piece of stock here. I'll put it in and show you how this thing works. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that this crank, make sure that this roller is in a lowered position. So we'll just go ahead and crank that, and you can see this kind of going down. Move that out of the way there. Move this down just enough so you can slide the piece of stock into the roller like this. And what we're going to do is we're just going to start cranking. And what you'll notice is on the other side, we see that the wire is coming out. Okay, so we're just going to roll that all the way over until the very end of the stock here is just resting on the roller, on the last roller here. So you can see that right there. So it's just that, you want to make sure I'm turning the crank here. You want to make sure it just sits on the edge there. What we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and we're going to give this a crank. Go ahead and turn this, and what happens is that roller there, this one here, is going to start to rise. Once it comes up, it's actually bending this wire a little bit. So put a couple turns on it and go ahead and roll it through another time. Okay, so we're going to pull the crank toward us this time. I found that basically the way you turn this crank here, if you pull it towards you, the piece is going to come out this way. If you push it away, the piece will come out this way. So I'm going to go ahead and pull it toward me. And we'll notice that it comes back out this way, and it has a slight more curvature to it. So we're just going to keep cranking this down and keep running it through. Okay, and every time you do it, it gets a little bit more round. So it gets a little bit time consuming, but it's not too bad. And if anything, it's a good workout for a mid-August night anyway, in a hot garage. Go ahead and keep rolling here. So a lot of pieces are going to get bent for the trumpet player, namely the hands here. The head will get bent in the ring roller here. And I mean, this is really a tremendous piece of equipment. It rolls perfect circles. Any size you want, down to about 3 inches or so. So it works out very, very well. And for what you don't do on here, you can use the hammer, the anvil, and the bender down below on the bench there. What I found is neat is with the ring roller here is a lot of the pieces that end up getting bent can be used for other things, like the base of the bell of the trumpet. This actually makes a real nice bell of the trumpet. So this will be the outer bell, and the inner bell, the inner side of the bell, if you will, it's a little bent a little bit less. So what we'll do is put that on the anvil and pound it out a little bit flat, and we make the trumpet that way. So this actually serves more than just rolling the rings, but other pieces as well. Okay. Just keep on rolling here. Now what's going to happen is we're going to get to a point where the two ends are going to meet up. And an interesting thing is happening here. I'm going to bring the opening face of the ring upward like this and show it to you. we notice that what's happening, let me turn this down a bit. These pieces here weren't entirely bent. They come up and they're straight. So that's not really a perfect circle. The ends of your circle are really right out here where my fingers are at. So at about this point, right before these two are about to touch, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the bolt cutters on these and I'm going to just nip these off. That way we get a perfect curvature. And as we continue to bend it here, it'll start to close up and it'll make almost a perfect circle like that. And if you needed to, you can pound this on the anvil and kind of pull that in and weld it together at a later time or something. So let's go ahead and we'll snip the ends off of this. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to put the cutters right to the end of where the flat part is. Take that off, and right here, and we'll just take that off as well. Okay? And all you're going to do is continue to roll this, in and out. So we'll go ahead, I'm going to put it on the edge right there, give it a few cranks, and just keep rolling. And what will happen is this distance will start to close. You can already see it closing up now. And we're just going to keep rolling. So there we go. So now you have pretty much a perfect circle. The problem with this is I didn't cut the stock long enough, so what's going to happen is I'll probably use this in a position where lights won't go on this, where the arm would pretty much extend out of here and lights would just be on this end right here. So it's not a total loss. This medium is very forgiving to work with, so you don't have to be very precise at all. So pretty much what we're going to do now is we'll just pop this on the anvil, because you see it's not exactly lined up straight. So I'm a little bit of a perfectionist. Just put it on there. Just kind of give it a little bit of a knock right there if I can hang on to it. I might need to get the grips. Put it in the grips here, and we'll just give it a little hit. And that about straightened it up pretty good. One thing I like to do is just put it on a flat surface, see if it's laying flat. I got no wobble in it, so it's pretty flat. Not that it matters all that much, but if you want to flatten it out, you can. If not, it's no big deal. So basically what's going to happen now is this piece will serve as a hand. Okay? So this could be this hand right here, and it's just big enough right there. The gap is just big enough where the inner arm here will connect to here and come up here into the armpit, and from the wrist here out. So this isn't all that bad that it was cut a little bit short. So not too bad. I like to try to get them as perfect rings here, as you can see. You can see on this guy here. This would help if I turn my camera up. Yeah, so we have a perfect ring right there, and it actually came all the way around. So this piece of bar was just a little bit longer. Down here you'll see that there's a little bit of a gap there. So this is probably one of the worst ones, but no big deal. So we saw how the ring roller was able to make us pretty much perfect circles here. The next thing I want to do, we played around with the hammer and anvil a little bit. We'll do that in a little bit. We'll create the shoes. But right now we'll use the pipe bender under the bench, and we'll create this arm piece right here. So what I like to do for this, because curvatures usually end up in slightly longer pieces than normal, what I like to do is take a piece of string here, and I'm just going to measure from the hand, and we're just going to trace this line here with a string, okay, all the way up here to the shoulder. So make it maybe a hair longer, but basically we need a piece of stock about that long. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and cut that out. Okay, now we have our piece of stock here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay this on the drawing, and where the line strays from the stock, I'm going to put a line here. This is roughly where a little bend should be. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to take this over to the bender, put it on the bender, and just put a little bit of a bend in this stock right there at that line. Let's go take a look. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and stick this in between the two pipes right here. This is our line, okay, so this is where we want to put the bend. And all we're going to do is put it in here, kind of hold it in place a little bit, and we're just going to give it a little push. Okay? And that's about all you need right there. Okay? So just a wee little bend. It's going to seem like you need to really bend it a lot, but I found that when you do that, you're going to end up bending it back quite a bit too. So just a wee little bend in there. You can hardly even tell it's here. But what we're going to do is we'll go set it back on the drawing, and when it matches the drawing, then we can go ahead and do the rest of the pieces and then start some welding. Okay, back at the drawing here. So what we've got, we'll put this into place here. I don't remember, yeah, it went like this. Let's try it like that, see how it works. Yeah, it works a little bit, but I think it was this way originally. So go ahead and put that on there. So what you'll notice is we've covered up a little bit more of the line here. So we covered up to about right here, and then the line strays off a bit again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put another mark here, take it back over to the bender, bring it back, and see if it matches that line up. Okay, so again, we're just going to follow along here, make our bend. It bends here. We notice that it's straying off, so we're going to need to bend it again. So let me go over and bend that and bring it back. Okay, now I've got our piece that's bent 2 times here, so I'm going to set it on the drawing, and that looks about good. Okay, so it follows along there. And again, this doesn't have to be precise. I mean, this is a really thick line here from the original drawing. So as long as it pretty much follows that same curvature there, we're good to go. So all we do is put that on there, and we're good. So that's another piece down. What we're going to do now is we'll go from here to here. There's a slight bend in the elbow right here. So we'll do that piece, and we can start to do the rest of the arms and the trumpet and all that kind of stuff. So let's take a look at some trumpet pieces here. So again, that trumpet, the bell of the trumpet here, is wider on the outside and a little bit smaller on the inside, meaning that there's more curvature here than there is on the inside. So what we'll do is, based on when we roll a ring, this is a ring that we rolled for the head. So this would go right here for the head. Okay, there's a pencil out there. Okay, so that's the head. The top half of the ring here was here, but we cut it off because we don't need it. The hat's going to cover that up. And these are some of the pieces that were left over from that. So they make great trumpet bells. So that almost fits perfectly there. We might need to roll another one just to get the rest of that curve there. That may be a little bit too small as well. But you get the idea, is we can use that. What we'll do is we'll put this on the anvil and we'll tap it down, and it'll kind of flatten it out a little bit more. And it'll fit this curvature perfectly, and this fits this one perfectly. So that's a real nice example of reusing a lot of the things that you've already done using the prior pieces here. So the head, we had some scrap left from the head that we end up making the trumpet bell out of. And the same thing is going to go for here. We can use a piece of curve for that. We can use a piece of curve for this. This is a little bit more steep of a curve, or deep of a curve, if you will. So we end up putting that on the anvil and beating that beating that down a little bit more, and finish the trumpet here. So the third and final method, which will bend wire, is going to be using the hammer and the anvil. So one of the more, probably the more intricate pieces here is going to be this shoe. The way this shoe kind of bends down and curves in, you need to really get a good hook on the anvil. So what we'll do is we'll use a piece of round that we rung on the ring roller, and we can cut it to fit the basic shape of this, and then we can start to pound it down using the anvil. So let's get a piece of stock and go ahead and do that. So I've gone over to the ring roller. I rolled a ring, cut a small piece off of it, and now we're ready to stick it in place here. But what we're going to find here is that we've got a line that runs off here. So what we do is put a tick mark here, and a grease pencil. We're going to go ahead and put a mark here. And this piece is just a little bit too small to put between the pipes under the bench and bend them. What will happen is you'll put it between the two, and it'll end up slipping out like that. Yeah, kind of like that. It'll kind of go to bend it, and it kind of slips out on you. So what we'll do is we'll put this on the anvil, and we'll just start bending this down. And we're just going to come back and forth until we bend this down into the shape of the shoe. I find that using the anvil on the floor, on the concrete floor, on a real hard surface like this works out a heck of a lot better than it does on a bench, especially you're pounding on wood up there. What's going to end up happening is all your tools end up falling all over the place, and I had that happen quite a bit, so I'm going to go ahead and stick to the floor here. So all we're going to do is we're going to place the stock on here. Sometimes, and I might actually need to get the vice grips and put on here and hold this down, but I'm going to try it with my bare hand first. What we're going to do is just start working this piece down. Yeah, I'm going to need the vice grips. It's a little bit too small. Bigger pieces aren't all that difficult, but once you get these small pieces, you really gotta hang on to them tight here. So we're going to put that in the vice grip. So what I'm going to do is just start. You can see that piece there is starting to bend down, and we're just going to run that. Just bend that down into our shoe shape. So once I get a little bit of a bend in it like that, we'll take it over to the drawing, see if it matches. If it does, great. If it doesn't, then we can come back here and start pounding some more. So then we got our drawing. Wow, that's almost a perfect fit. Look at that. I think maybe if we put another mark right there and kind of bent that in a wee little bit more, but I mean, this is almost perfect. You think I've been doing this my whole life. And in fact, this is our first wireframe project we've ever done, so I'm actually impressed here. Probably more luck than anything. So yeah, we'll go ahead and we'll knock that in a bit. And the goal at this point is just going to get to bend this in here so you can weld it. So it'll weld up nicely. It'll meet up to weld. If not, what we can do is there are hundreds of pieces here laying around the shop. We can just toss one of these in here and, you know, make the bridge and close it off there. But I think what we'll do is we'll just go ahead and pop that back on the anvil. Alright, just a slight little bend on there. Move that into place. Almost there, and I think I'm pretty happy with that. This almost looks like this should extend out anyway and touch right there like that. So I think that's about as good as we're going to get it. So what we'll do now is go ahead and do the shoe piece here and the rest of the trumpet player. So once you get all the pieces laid out on the drawing, these are a couple of difficult pieces here. There's some really sharp bends in some of these arm pieces here. Nonetheless, it's a combination of on the anvil, using the hammer and the anvil, and the bender under the table over there. And once we get everything laid out here, then we'll go ahead and start to get welding. So now that we have all the wire bent and onto our engineering drawing, now we're ready to start welding those pieces together. So we'll use the drawing as a guide. We'll bring a couple of pieces over to the bench here. We'll weld them, take them back, make any necessary adjustments to them to make them match the drawing again, and there that wire will stay in its permanent place. And what we'll do is we'll work our way all over the drawing until we completely build the trumpet player out. Takes me about 2.5, maybe 3 hours to do a trumpet player. So what we're going to weld with, I have a Hobart 140 amp MIG welder. It's a very, very easy thing to do. A good friend of mine a couple years ago taught me real quick in a garage one night how to weld. It was really simple. Just put the torch in my hand and let me go to town. And it's real easy. All you're going to do is you're going to put the clamp here on the piece of stock, and you're going to use your torch here, and you're basically just going to put it on the piece and hit the button here, and it welds it up for you. So let's go ahead and turn this thing on. Okay, adjustment there, and let's go ahead and show you how to weld up a piece here. Okay, so a couple tools I have here on the bench with me. I've got my torch here, okay? I've got a multi-purpose tool here that'll cut the wire for me, clean out the end of the torch, that kind of thing. I also use this guy to pick up the pieces of stock from over on the engineering drawing and bring them over here to my piece of cement board, which we're going to weld it up on. I have my hammer here, which I'll show you why in a couple of minutes, and I have the anvil here as well. I have a little magnetic torch holder, and that's a real nice place to put your torch so you're not breaking anything, and it's always right here where you need it. So let me go get a couple pieces and we'll start welding them up. We're going to start with the top of the hat. I like to start at the very top of the trumpet player, and work my way all the way down. So let's take a look. Okay. Need to take the clamp, and we're going to clamp it onto the end of our piece of stock right here, okay, like that. I like to put the hammer right on top of here so this holds it down nice and steady. Now if you can tell from the video there's a grid on this hardy backer. Comes in really handy when welding these because if you need to do a 90-degree weld, it makes it real easy. You just line up the lines here and you're done. So really what I'm supposed to do, what we should do, is put this on a brush, on a stiff wire brush, and what that'll do is it'll clean up any oil or residues that are on here, and it'll help make for a good strong weld. Well, we're not, I'm not constructing a building or anything like that. We're just doing some Christmas decorations, so you can typically get away with not cleaning it. I'm certainly no expert in welding. I'm sure there's a lot of other people out there that might have different opinions, and that's fine. But this is just kind of how I do it. It served me well over the years. So always make sure that your helmet is down. And we're going to go ahead and put a quick spot weld on here. Okay, so we got our spot weld on there, so this is completely fused together now. Okay, and look at that. It's still really, really hot to the touch. You don't want to touch that at all. What I'm going to do is take this back of the drawing, and we're going to make sure that this fits the drawing where it was originally. Okay, here's the top of the hat, and I'm going to go and put this on here, and it looks like it fits the drawing well. So what we can do is we'll take the next piece over here, we'll take this back with us, and we'll take this piece and get ready to weld this on. Okay, helmet's down. I noticed that time I didn't clip the little clamp on. I just held it down to it. Makes it a little bit easier. You gotta give a little bit of pressure, make sure that you're making the connection there, and you should be okay. Meanwhile, back at the drawing, place our new piece down here, and we can see that it matches up rather well. So we're gonna take our bigger piece now, take the next piece, go and weld it. Now we've got our hat with the brim welded onto it. Place that on the drawing. Now I notice that this is sticking up a wee little bit. So what I can do is, while this is still really hot, what I can do is just give this a little bit of a bend while it's still malleable. Too much there. There we go. And it's right on there. And we're just going to work our way over the entire piece. And that's all there is to it. Alright, it's been almost 2.5, maybe 3 hours or so, but I've got the entire trumpet player welded up, and he's ready to go. He's ready to be brushed off. What I'll do is I'll put a weld on the other side. I only welded the top side real well. What I'll do is I'll flip it over and hit all the joints there with another weld, just to make sure that it's really secure. What we'll then do is we'll wire brush it to get all the oxidation and debris off of it, clean it up real nice. We'll give it a nice coat of black spray paint, and it'll be ready to be clipped and lit. So let's take a look at this guy. Alright, there he is. So the first thing that you'll notice is the drawing now doesn't line up exactly the way that it was originally. We see over here that the flag is a wee little bit off. That's because of this little piece right here. So what I decided to do was to give it some more rigidity so this wasn't flapping around in the wind literally. I just put this little piece in here, and I thought it looked a little bit nicer if the flag was pushed out. So again, that's something else, you know, you can always do that. Make modifications as you go. For instance, here when the trumpet player has his arm in the down position, I had the trumpet drawn where it was actually behind his arm, but it was a little bit too difficult to weld these little pieces and cut these little pieces to fit in here. So I wanted to bring this trumpet when he had it in the down position to kind of come out from his leg a little bit. It's kind of like he's holding it on the ground or something like that. And then you can light just the arm, have lights on just the arm that's down, and then another channel would be the trumpet player having the trumpet up in the air playing like that. So we just went around, welded everything up here, welded all the joints up, and it's ready to go on to the next step. The other thing that I decided to do here, started to say when we first started here, was the head's kind of cocked off to the side, or kind of pointing up a little bit. So I wanted to give it the effect that he had his head kind of pointed in the air rather than just straight on. So I put the trumpet at that angle, so I kind of tilted his head back to match that angle as well. And I put this little piece in here for stability as well. His hand was, you know, butted right up against his side, and I wanted to kind of put a little bit of distance between his hand and his side. And what's nice about this material too is it gives. So it's not super rigid. I mean, this was, you were able to move this out. You can even see, you know, squeezing this, it will bend on you a little bit, and that's okay. We kind of want that because it gives us a flexibility to put these in slightly different positions. So we don't need to be exactly perfect when we're making the welds and the bends. So there you have it. We basically taken a couple pieces, or maybe a few pieces, a quarter round here, bent them into a shape that we drew on a piece of paper, blew it up on an engineering draft or drawing, welded or laid it out, welded it together, and we're ready to go. So that's just one of the many features that we do here at the Canigiani Christmas Light Show. I want to thank you for joining us here today. I really hope you enjoyed watching the video as much as I did making it, and I hope to see you all at the light show when we kick off on Black Friday this year. Thank you so much.